You're dialed in to the Dog Pound Podcast, your weekly shot of Cleveland Browns recaps, reactions, and rants with your hosts, Jon Drake and Chris Aiken.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of the Dog Pound Podcast. I am your host, Jon Drake. With me, as always, Mr. Chris Aiken. How's it going, man?
It is peachy, man. Just peachy here in Browns Central.
Yep, we are. I think we can agree that we are finally on Hugh Jackson watch.
You are?
Of him being fired.
I've been on that watch since training camp. I can't believe you've joined the crew here.
No, they were, dude. You know what? They were progressing, and now it's just gotten to the point where they're not progressing. I don't think. And I mean, injuries are not helping, but the pattern of ineptitude is just becoming too prevalent. And it's, you know, your favorite term when we text, you know, undisciplined. I think that's, you know, really what is going to be his undoing. I mean, yet another game with a double-digit number of penalties, and some of them were complete horse crap, and I actually have a theory about that. But
all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too many damn penalties constantly, and it's just not, you know, trending in the right direction.
Yeah, it's really, you know, the thing about the penalties is that they're not being coached well enough to avoid the penalties. I mean, you're always going to have some there, you know, but you can't give up. You can't be a bad team. And let's face it, the Browns are a bad team. They're better than they were, but they're still a bad team. And you can't be a bad team and with any chance of success with that much lack of discipline. They got to play, and you know, we said this before week 1. They have to play nearly perfect football in order to win games. No matter who they're playing. If they're playing the Cardinals or whoever else is on the bottom heap of the heap, they have to play a nearly perfect game in order to beat them. You know, the Jets game, they played a nearly perfect game, and that's why they were able to come out of that game. The Ravens, they played not perfect, but pretty damn good for them. And that's how they were able to win it. You know, the last 2 weeks have been the polar opposite. They could not have played worse against the Chargers. And they got dealt with by a good team. And then and now this last week, all right, maybe some elements played a little bit better, you know, but overall it was kind of the same performance that we had against the Chargers. It's just we played a lesser team, so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a blowout.
Yeah, and I mean, so many things stand out about this game, and you know, the first thing to me that stood out was you kind of figured that they were going to come out and have Baker Mayfield throw a couple short passes and stuff with only one read to get him into a rhythm. But then they just kept doing it. I mean, the entire first half, he's just dumping off. I'm like, whose jackass idea is that?
Yeah, what did they
you're playing a team that's giving up an Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, what did they do? Hire Tyrod to be the coach now?
Yeah, probably, right? Todd Haley had the runs, and he was in the locker room, and Tyrod's calling the plays.
You take over. You take over. You seem to have a handle on this.
Yeah, you know the offense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're playing against a team that has the worst pass defense in the NFL and have given up an average of 25 points in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your game plan?
Yeah.
I mean, that just – I hated the decision mostly because it just shows a pussy attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you know, we better make sure he gets in a rhythm. No, attack them. They suck. They are crap in the secondary, and they can't keep you from scoring. And you have a guy that likes to chuck it downfield. Attack them.
Yeah. Well, I'm
gonna just dink and dunk garbage.
I'm gonna step even further back than this though, because you're focused specifically on the game. I'm gonna say that the focus was even before the game. The focus, the lack of focus, started on Friday, and I honestly believe this. And you can tell me I'm full of shit, and that's fine. But I honestly think that the trade on, I think it was Friday of Hyde, showed what is a very, very dysfunctional coaching room now. It showed that Dorsey's not on the same page with either Hugh, Haley, or both. And Hugh's comments right after the game, I know he's backtracked from them since, but Hugh's comments, which were passionate and probably the most real, were Haley sucks, so I'm going to take over for him, which shows that he and Haley are not on the same page. So if you look at all that, you just see the coaching staff not together, not organized as a group. And then what did you get? You get a game where the gameplay is not organized and not focused on what it should have been. I think you and I on Friday night, not with the podcast, just me and you hanging out, had said that they should be throwing the ball down the field at least once a drive. At least once per every, which to me means before you've got your third play in, you better be taking a shot, because Tampa was awful. Tampa is giving up what was a stat I saw? Something like they were averaging 25 yards a play given up a pass in the first quarter of games this year. And we took exactly 0 shots 25 yards down the field. The bottom line to it is that they just weren't doing that. They didn't do it in the first quarter, not one time. I mean, not one time did they take a legitimate shot. And I think, I don't remember for positive, but I think they only took one shot over 20 yards in the first half.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like the Tyrod Taylor offense.
It did. And I don't know why they would do that and why they're neutering Baker, or if Baker's neutering Baker or whatever. But what it says to me is that the coaches are not calling, they're not calling the plays that need to be called. I don't care what Baker wants to do. They should be calling the plays, and Baker should be running the plays. And that, to me, that's still a coaching thing. Baker is not Peyton Manning yet. He doesn't get to call the offense. He gets to hear what Haley has to say, and if Haley calls a play that's into quadruple coverage, he better throw the damn ball there, because he's still a rookie, and there's a breakdown, and even with the coaching, the sports talk guys all had that rumor this week, and for once I agree with sports talk. I think that John Dorsey traded Carlos Hyde for no other reason than they wouldn't do what he wanted, which was play Nick Chubb. So he got rid of the guy that was in the way.
Well, the fact that they got a 5th rounder for him, I think kind of speaks to that. You would think that a guy that was productive.
Yeah.
Hyde was reasonably productive, and Jacksonville had a need. It wasn't like it was, the Rams. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it was the Chargers, who have a two-headed monster, so to speak, at running back. We'll just take this guy in case we have an injury. Like, we'll get him for depth, 5th round pick. Like, no, I mean, the Jags have no running back.
Right.
Their backup sucks. Fournette's out for a while. They're trying to dig themselves out of a hole because they believe that they're, a Super Bowl contender. Mm-hmm. I mean, and all you get was a 5th rounder. I mean, and I understand that, he's gone after this year, so that hurts his trade value. They know he's on a 1-year contract.
Sure.
So he's a rental. But so I don't know where I fall on that trade. I mean, I get it, and it makes sense to me, because I always thought that having those 3 running backs was kind of silly, because Hyde and Chubb were basically the same guy.
Yeah, so play the young guy and let him take his lumps this year, let him stink this year, so that when the team is good, he's good. Why is Chubb having 6 carries in 5 games, or whatever the number? It was some little number like that. What was it, like 18 carries in 6 games? That's a ridiculously low number for a guy that you think is your guy for the next 5 years.
But Hyde was productive. I mean, we talked about this previously.
Hyde should have been the backup from week 1.
Well, then why do you sign him? I mean, that begs the question right there. I mean, they signed him before the draft. So you knew you had Carlos Hyde. So what are you drafting Chubb for in the 2nd round?
Because Hyde was a 1-year player. We knew that Hyde was a gap fill.
Well, yeah, but they paid him starting running back money, so they're not going to bench him. I mean, the whole thing was kind of like, what the hell is the point of this?
It didn't make a lot of sense. I think Hyde was the reaction to Crowell splitting, is what I think. I think they were just trying to go even for even. Crowell was a middle of the road running back, so was Hyde. So they swapped in there, and then they drafted Chubb because they saw that they were looking toward the future. The problem is that when you're on a rebuild team, you got to play the young guys. You got to, if you're going to lose anyway, then lose with your young guys. Let them get the experience. All these Nick Chubb as an example. Let him get that happy feet thing that all young, or not all, but a lot of young running backs have, where they don't see the hole that me and you could run through that they get in college anymore, where they get a tiny gap and they're not used to hitting it.
Yeah.
That seems to be what most running backs have to adjust to in the NFL. So let Chubb do it. And look, I didn't see any production drop off with Chubb last week. Did you?
No, and I was glad because, as you remember, I was not a fan of everybody give him more carries. I'm like, he hasn't done crap with it. So I was actually nervous. I was like, everybody, this could turn out to be one of those be careful what you wish for type things.
Sure.
And it wasn't. There was no drop off, and I was really, really happy to see that. So,
dude, I'll tell you what though, if they can't figure out a way to get Duke Johnson the ball more, then they need new coaches. I mean, my God, he's the only playmaker on the field for half the game this week. The only legit, I mean, I guess Jarvis Landry is too. He hasn't proven it, but
Oh, this last week he did.
He played well.
Targets.
He played well. I'm not saying he didn't play well. I'm just saying he's not a guy that every time he touches the ball could potentially break. And
okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
And
yeah.
Duke's the only guy that we have like that. And what did he have this week? He had more attempts, but he had 4 catches and 5 attempts, or 6 attempts.
Well, no, he caught all of his targets, and they only gave him they handed it off to him once.
Yeah, come on,
a single time.
Yeah, that's not production that we need. Give him the ball. He's got to have the ball somehow.
Well, and it also they have to give him carries because he's so good on those screen passes.
Yeah.
But if you never hand him the ball, whenever he's on the field that they're going to throw it to him.
Yeah.
There's no element of surprise whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? If you don't want to run him up the gut, and I get that with him, pitch.
Well, they can't. This offensive line has talk about regressing. I mean, that's the next thing that I noticed beyond the whole crap with Baker.
Yeah.
Man, Jameis Winston was basically untouched, and then as soon as Baker drops back, the pocket's just collapsing.
Yeah.
I mean, these tackles have been playing like crap for 3 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I was talking to the owner of the company that I work for today, and he was mentioning, and it's a good point. He says, they're successful running up the gut, off guard and, center or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they go outside, they're losing yardage because the tackles can't run block out there. They're crap in the bed.
Yeah. No, it's true. Neither one of them has played very well. The outsides are not strong. And we knew that going in, and the answer is the draft next year. Unfortunately, we still got 9 games this year.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sashi Brown, because we didn't need Mitchell Schwartz or anything.
No, we didn't need him. And
asshole.
But at least we got Corbett. He was active this week, right?
Yeah, apparently they're grooming him to be the future center. So
great.
I mean, if he turns out to be really good, then at least you got him, and then Batonio next to him, and Zeitler's pretty good. I mean, your guards are fine. And then if you have a great center, cool. But
but that's what we need right now. We needed them to draft a guy to play one of these tackle positions, and then move him to a position we already have.
Yeah,
that's a brilliant move.
I forever will never understand that. You draft a guy who played left tackle and they're like, yeah, why don't you play guard or center? How about you play him at left tackle?
Yeah.
And I understand you gave me the whole footwork thing and the size thing and all this. Well, then don't draft the guy.
Yeah.
I don't, I know I'm not a coach and I'm not a John Dorsey, but I always question it when I see teams drafting somebody who plays a particular position. Like, oh, he's probably going to move to this position in the NFL. Well, if you want a defensive lineman to play linebacker, why don't you just draft a goddamn linebacker?
Yeah, somebody that's been doing it for 20 years of playing or whatever.
Yeah. I just don't understand that.
Well, the only answer I'll give you for that in the center position, I'll give you a 2-word answer that pretty much says it all. Cam Irving.
Oh, well, yeah.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but I think the Browns in many ways, and while it shouldn't matter, it does, at least to us as fans. The Browns are snake bitten by every bit of this lousy, shitty past that we've been dealing with for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, you pick any position, and I mean, think about it, dude. Since the Browns came back, have they had before this year? Have they had 3 picks that you would call quality? I would say Joe Thomas, Joe Hayden, and who?
Mitchell Schwartz, who doesn't play for us. Alex Mack, who doesn't play for
us.
Um,
Alex Mack would be a good one, though. He was quality. Mitchell Schwartz, he became good, but
I mean, there's a few. I mean, Christian Kirksey in the 3rd round. That's a damn good pick. I mean, Joe Schobert is a mid-round pick. That's a damn good one.
But for every one of those, you can name a Johnny Manziel or a Willie Green or
oh yeah,
or
yeah. I mean, for sure.
What was
it's
Courtney Brown?
Courtney Brown, jeez. Well, how about the one that I always argue with my best friend with? I still can't believe we have this argument, and it's an argument I will never let go of until the day we die, until he agrees with me.
Yeah.
He swears that the year we drafted Gerard Warren, it wouldn't have made a difference to the Browns if we had taken LaDainian Tomlinson instead. I'm like, oh no, we don't need a Hall of Fame running back that is one of the top overall leaders in yardage from scrimmage in NFL history. I'm sure that wouldn't help. Well, but the Browns suck, so how would that help? I'm like, because so did San Diego. They're only picking one damn pick after us.
Instead,
so they were in the Super Bowl the year previous and just got lucked into the 4th overall pick? Give me a break.
Instead, we're gonna do something completely creative and be the first team in history to draft a nose guard number 1.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually true. I think Gerard Warren is the only nose in the history of the draft drafted that high. I don't think there's ever been one.
Was he a nose or was he a defensive tackle?
Well, he played nose guard, but I think he might have been a tackle in college, but I don't watch college. But
whatever he wasn't goddamn LaDainian Tomlinson.
He sure wasn't the number 2 pick in the draft that he got picked as. That's for sure.
No, number 3. We did.
Oh, was he 3? He was 3 that year. I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's been so many bad picks that I can't remember them all.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, that's about the only thing we can credit Sashi Brown for is collecting assets, and thank God, because John Dorsey actually knows how to use them.
Yeah.
And I keep looking at what Kansas City's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me hope because that's a John Dorsey roster.
It is.
And when you look at the weapons that team has, and it has to give you hope. Because when you look what that guy built there in only a few years, he started doing that here already.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree, but there is one key difference with what he did in Kansas City versus what he's doing here. He's not saddled with a shitbag coach in Kansas City.
Yeah.
He had pretty much a Hall of Fame coach with Andy Reid, and now he doesn't.
I wonder if there's anybody out there that would become available like that. Like when Philadelphia let go of Andy Reid, it was like, holy crap. Like I don't think there's I keep trying to think of who the Browns could get to replace Hugh Jackson that would be I mean, granted, anybody's going to be better than his record, but is there going to be anybody anywhere near the pedigree of an Andy Reid that Dorsey could hire?
See, but I don't know that in today's game that works anymore. I think Andy Reid is probably going to be the last of that dying breed because if you think about it, most of the coaches that are getting hired now are this younger, we really are making that switch to younger guys, like Sean McVay and Mike Vrabel and, guys like that are are moving in and doing well. It's there's got to be somebody. And you'll probably laugh because this guy did not have success, not big success, but he started to, but then it fell apart on him. But I would love to see if he still has the hunger to do it, is Mike Singletary.
Man, are you high?
That guy had the most football.
He's terrible.
You know what? He had a crummy team to coach with the 49ers.
Oh.
And you can't argue, and maybe it's because I watched football like a maniac as a kid. You cannot argue this guy's football IQ is.
Oh no, not at all.
But
it'll never work.
I would like to. I don't know that he's. He's not even coaching like an assistant or anything anymore. So I don't think he has the hunger for it anymore. But or maybe even like a Brian Urlacher. That guy had tremendous football IQ as well. Dude, it's a weird thing now because, and I honestly think this, when you start thinking about coaches these days and guys that have like huge football IQ, the problem is these guys make so much money now. That's like, why would I do that? Why would I go and work 20 hours a day for 8 months a year when I could sit home because I made, $60 million?
It's a good argument. The thing with Singletary, you're right about his game, his football IQ and, his pedigree and all that stuff. But the problem is that he played back in the mid 80s when everyone was a hard ass.
Sure.
And that kind of attitude doesn't fly today. The players are different these days.
Yeah.
These are guys that are, look at Le'Veon Bell. Like, he's purposely sitting out. Well, I don't want to get injured. I'm going to cost myself money. Back when Singletary was playing, he had Ronnie Lott cutting off half of his goddamn finger at halftime to continue to play. Like, that's just a whole different mindset. So he tried to bring that old school mindset in with the Niners, and it flopped miserably. And then all of a sudden, the next year with Harbaugh, they're like a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was basically the same roster. So obviously it was a coaching problem. So I don't agree with that. Now, your suggestion of Urlacher, I'm not saying we're going to do this, but that makes a lot more sense to me because he played a lot more recently.
Sure.
So he's much more familiar with today's players and how the game is these days. So, and I even heard on the radio today, I think it was Jim Donovan was speculating that, I think we're going to see a lot more college coaches getting hired because that spread offense and the more wide open style of, offensive play calling that college uses is getting more into the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So these college coaches can actually come into the NFL and have success. So when people mention, why don't you go hire Lincoln Riley, get, Baker Mayfield's coach from Oklahoma, it's like, well, that's not really the worst idea.
Yeah.
Especially if Baker's like, that's the guy he's most comfortable with, and you get this guy in here who knows Baker, works well with him, and says, okay, I'm gonna create an offense based around the franchise quarterback. That's not exactly the worst idea.
No, the one name that I keep hearing that I hate hearing, and it's like every year this guy comes up, and it used to come up that he would be great because he was so young. He's not even that young anymore, and they still keep saying it'd be great, but he's failed. Twice? What's his name? Josh McDaniel. It's like, enough with this guy. He hasn't proven
He's not
anything.
going anywhere.
He can't. He's not good.
Yeah, and besides, it's pretty much been reported that the reason he stayed in New England is because they gave him an enormous contract to stay there, saying, well, when Bill Belichick leaves, you're the next coach.
Well, yeah, and Bill's going to retire probably with Brady here in a year or two, so.
Well, if I'm Haslam, because Belichick has that love for the Browns because of Paul Brown,
mm-hmm.
if he says, yeah, I'm done, I make the call and say, I've got a dump truck full of money that says you might want to come here. Wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Well, it couldn't hurt to offer it to him. I cannot imagine that he would come here, though, now. One, he got pushed out of here kind of an ugly way, and B, why, if it didn't work out here, that guy's trajectory is like finite in stone for his career and his legacy. Wouldn't that be the worst if he came here and went like 4-12 and 5-11 in 2 years and then got fired?
It depends on his ego. Does he have an ego big enough to say, well, now I'm the Bill Belichick and I'm going to turn around the damn Browns? they've been saying, the Browns' job is not going to be unattractive because you finally have a franchise quarterback. You've got a front office that knows how to draft.
Yeah.
And it is a great fan base.
It is, but the thing with Belichick, though, is Belichick's not going to get fired either.
Yeah, true.
Belichick's going to decide when he steps down. It isn't going to be the management there in New England saying, all right, we really want to try something new. Yeah, you built maybe the most longest term dynasty in the history of the NFL, but we're going to go in a new direction now. He could have Hugh Jackson numbers without anybody saying, okay, time to go.
Yeah.
That's his legacy right now. Is that
I completely agree.
So
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think he would come here for $100 million a year. I really don't. He has money. He's pushing 70. For God's sakes, let the man retire.
Well, I mean, you never. I mean, again, it's not even a pipe dream. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
That, let's say, something does happen. Like, why? If I'm Jimmy Haslam, I'm making that call.
Sure.
If you're hiring one of the three best coaches in the history of football.
Yeah.
You can't get Paul Brown, you can't get Vince Lombardi, but maybe you can get Bill Belichick. I mean, you at least make that phone call. I mean, Jesus Christ, if John Gruden's sucky ass is getting $100 million, well, I mean, good Lord.
That's proving out to go well.
Well, I mean, he does have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years, and he's trying to push that GM out the door. So, I mean, who knows with that guy? Maybe there's a method to his madness. I mean, if he can actually use the draft capital properly. But, I mean, Christ, the guy turned Amari Cooper into a first-round pick.
Yeah.
He's a miracle worker.
and what did we get for Josh Gordon? A 7th? A conditional 7th or something?
It was a 5th.
A 5th, but it's a conditional 5th, right?
It was something about if he has to be in the field 10 games. I forget what it is now because I just didn't care. I got so sick of Josh Gordon.
Right. But I mean, skill for skill, if Amari Cooper's a first-round pick, you would think that Josh Gordon was a 3rd, maybe. I don't know. I was surprised. I knew the Cowboys needed him, but man, first-round talent.
Well, I'm just glad we didn't do it.
Yeah.
I would have thrown a fit if they gave up a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. I'm like, okay, if you're going to give up a second-rounder, okay. I mean, he potentially could be a number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
But I mean, holy crap!
Yeah, you don't want to give up. You don't want to give up a top 3 pick in next year's draft for Amari Cooper.
Exactly. I mean, look at recent history. I mean, the Texans trading that first-round pick to us. I mean, God bless them, but you have one thing go wrong, and that pick would have been in the 20s. Instead, it was the 4th overall pick.
Right? Sure. No, it's surprising that they were able to get that deal done. And you know what? The Cowboys are not exactly good either. That might turn out to be a really good pick.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a top 15.
Is so overrated.
That could be a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
I would think it will
doubt
be.
It.
The Cowboys, other than Zeke, they don't really have anything over there.
I mean, like I was just saying, I mean, I'm sorry, but Dak Prescott is overrated as hell. I'm so sick of hearing it. He had a good rookie year, but you had Zeke going for like 1,800 yards or whatever the hell it was. Of course he's going to have a good year. Everyone's crapping their pants worried that Zeke's going to go off for 250 yards a game against him. So of course the guy can throw the ball.
Yeah. Well, this year you put him with average receivers and he's a dreadfully average quarterback. He's Blake Bortles.
He wasn't good last year either.
No.
I mean, he had a good rookie season. He's been pretty crappy otherwise ever since.
Yeah, but he got his money and he's got his endorsement deals. He's good.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, back to the Browns game. Talking about Baker getting hit too much.
Yeah.
I mean, he did get rid of the ball quicker, and I think against the Chargers, he was definitely holding on to the ball too long because guys were getting open. I think you could see in this game a lot of the sacks were not because he was holding on to the ball too long. Guys just weren't getting open. I mean, that's why you had Njoku and Jarvis Landry with 90% of the catches in the game.
Right.
because they're the professional starting receivers, and they're getting open. I mean, he targeted Juice 15 times.
Well, he had to. I mean, who else are you going to target? What's his name? Radley?
Ratley, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you going to throw it to him?
And I will say this for the coaching, at least they finally got smart and started using Njoku as a matchup nightmare against linebackers.
Yeah.
They finally started doing that, and of course he responded with a good game. So
yeah.
I mean, that was good, but I'm such a Baker fan, and it's and I get it. He's played like a rookie. He hasn't played perfect by any means, but I'm sorry. This game just kind of shows the kind of success that he can have, because as we said, the first half they have him doing nothing but dinking and dunking. They get 0 points. Second half they unleash him and they put up 21 points. Well, okay, well, duh.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he can play. He can definitely play, and this is why I've been saying since he came in, and I've said it on every podcast so far. Let him play. Let him make his mistakes. Let him throw his picks. Let him learn. I'm good with them just letting it go. I'm not good with what they did in the first half. Don't try to control this guy. Let him gunsling it a little bit. Let him be Brett Favre this year.
Yeah.
Let him with a team of shit receivers and a running back that can catch the ball that they don't make plays to. Let him throw his 30 picks. Let him get comfortable. Let him have those mistakes. In essence, I'm thinking let him have his first year of Troy Aikman. Because that is the blueprint. In my head, that's the blueprint we should be looking at for Baker Mayfield. Let him have his Troy Aikman first year this year, and then let him have the rest of his Troy Aikman career, the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Is Baker Mayfield going to be 450-yard a game guy? I don't think so. I don't think that's his game.
Dude, a guy that pushes the ball down the field like that, you never know, man.
You don't know, but I think that he's going to be more like out of the Troy Aikman mold, where he's going to have a good receiver, he's going to have a good running back, and he's going to balance an attack. He's going to be the kind of quarterback that you can't zero in on anything with. And that's what made Aikman so good back in those days was you couldn't really shut the passing game down, or Emmitt Smith would run it down your throat for 220 yards a game. Yeah. And you couldn't shut Emmitt down, or Michael Irvin was going to take off. And if you did shut Michael Irvin down, you had who was the tight end before Witten? But Witten as well. You had Witten and I can't remember the tight end's name.
Oh, yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
But whoever that guy was, he was good too. And, they had that perfect balance. And if you look at our team with Njoku, if he ever decides to catch the ball every time it's thrown to him.
Well, he did it this week. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game.
He only had one drop this week. He only had one drop this week. That's much better. But with Njoku, Landry, or potentially Callaway, eventually, and Chubb, you're looking at sort of the same kind of a blueprint.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Baker, though, like when they compare him to like guys like Brett Favre and Drew Brees, I think I can kind of see that, though. He's more of an attack oriented quarterback. Like he kind of seems like a guy like who can throw guys open and can kind of take a game on his own shoulders.
Sure.
And because he does again he attacks, he throws it downfield. He's like Bernie Kosar.
Yeah.
With substandard talent, once he has some experience, I think he's one of those guys that can take over a game and just, make the crappy receivers a little better because he knows exactly where to throw it. Right. So
he's a little bit less of a risk taker than Favre, though. I mean, Favre, if you drop 10 guys on one receiver, Favre would still throw to that receiver and think that he was going to catch. Favre did not give a shit what kind of coverage he was throwing into.
All right.
He was just going to gun it. And I think Baker's a little more disciplined than that. But I'll tell you what I did like seeing this week was I really enjoyed that long run that he had, where he pulled the ball down, because he ran hard, but it was even that run was very smart the way he ran. He didn't just run for the first down and slide. He picked spots and he found blockers, and he really converted into like a running back on that play, which shows that he's got that, that more than just quarterback intelligence. He's got football intelligence.
Yeah.
For whatever he's doing on the field.
Yeah, and two things that speak to that. It was 2nd and 26, and it wasn't like he got past the first down marker and slid. Like he was still looking for more yards. I mean, if he could have gone the length of the field, he would have done it.
Right.
And so I mean, like you said, that shows an attack mentality. It shows his football IQ. And to one of your earlier points, I think that I completely 100% agree with you about letting him just unleash it this year and take his lumps and learn, because his track record, no matter where he's been, has been one of learning from his mistakes and adapting. So he's got the IQ and the ability to look at what he's doing and go, okay, I got to fix that. I got to do that. Can't do that. So you're not looking at a guy like DeShone Kizer who's, got, the football IQ of a mosquito,
right? And
he's down in the red zone just chucking pick after pick after pick after pick. It's like, Baker looks at his own film and says, okay, well, can't do that, got to do this. I mean, he's really intelligent, and he always improves on what he's doing. So let him take his lumps, because he's going to look at that and go, okay, well, now I know not to do that. Now I know not to do this. Okay, I should do this more. And, and especially as he gets more experienced, he's also the type of a guy that will go to the coaches and say, hey, I like doing this. I think we can be successful doing that. He's almost like that Bernie Kosar, where he kind of I wouldn't say tells the coaches what to do, but he's vocal about what he thinks is going to work. And he's almost like, he's got that Peyton Manning to him, where he's like an offensive coordinator on the field. I mean, he's got that kind of mindset.
Right.
So
and he's got the
get
passion.
Him on that track.
Yeah, and he's got the passion too. I mean, what I liked was after the Charger game, where he came out and said, this is the worst I've ever experienced in my life. Now he knows he's on a crappy team. Let's be honest. I mean, I know they can't say that in the press or whatever, but
of course
he knows he's on a lousy team, and he's still taking it that personally that he couldn't raise his crappy team to the level of the competition. And that's something you can never teach. That's not a teachable, skill. That's a leadership skill that this guy has, and he just has to get the experience to hone his talent to match it. And again, that's why I'm glad that they're doing what they're doing. And I know at the beginning of the year I was okay with Tyrod not playing, but now seeing how this guy reacts and interacts on the field, I like very much. The way he personally is progressing. Yeah. Now the rest of the team, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, at the end of regulation, when the Browns got the ball back, everyone's like jumping for joy and celebrating on the sideline. They're like, oh my God, we got the ball. And they showed Baker, and he's just cool as ice. And they showed him running to everybody going, one more, let's get one more. Like he's not celebrating. He's like, we got a job to do.
Right.
Like, let's get out there and get one more score. And it's just like when they say he's got that it factor, like he really does. There's just, I don't know, man. And again, I know I'm a homer for the guy, but it just, he gives you hope, because he's got the things that all the great quarterbacks that we've seen other teams have. He's got those intangibles, but he also has the tangibles.
Well,
and it gives you a lot of hope for what can be coming down the road.
Well, I hope that Hugh is fired.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how, I've defended him, but I mean, at this point, you're literally at that crossroads where it's like, okay, you're losing these. He's 2-10-1 in games decided by 3 points or less.
Yeah,
and it's just, it's always like the same way. It's like pulling defeat from the jaws of victory, and at some point, it's just. You can't blame the crappy roster. Like the last 2 years, I mean, Joe Thomas came out and said, we were tanking.
Yeah.
So, okay, you can't blame Hugh for that. I mean,
no,
they're tanking this year. That's not what it is. My concern, and this is what's going to suck, is that I hate having all that turnover. Like, let's say, because this thing with Haley just seems like it's going down the Kyle Shanahan road, where he's going to be here for 1 year and then go, here's my 32-point presentation about why I F this place. And
right.
I mean, if they're going to replace him, okay, bring another coach. I really hope they keep Greg Williams, because this defense, you get him a couple more players, which they're going to do. I mean, this defense could be a top 5 defense. They really could. And to start over with a new system and a new philosophy, I just think would be horrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would like to, I'm fine with them flushing Haley out of here. Whatever. That guy, he's not proving it to me, and, it doesn't matter. The system that's in place is not good enough to where it matters. The problem I have with Hugh is that now we've had 6 of 7 games that have been decided by a few points, right? The only game that was a complete blowout was the Charger game.
Yeah.
Everything else was close or a tie or whatever. And when you're that close and you can't get the job done, then that is 100% on the coaching. 100%. Yeah. It's no longer mistakes. It's no longer lack of talent. You're within 3 points in almost every single game, which means that your talent-wise is at least in parity with the other team. Which means that it all comes down to who makes the smarter, better calls at the right time. And the lack of discipline, 12 penalties, 10 penalties, 15 penalties, every single week, that's on the coach. The lack of time management, that's on the coach. The lack of firing a special teams coach that has clearly got no clue, that's on the coach. The lack of a kicker that you can absolutely depend on. And, I don't remember what Joseph's numbers were this week, but I'll just put it overall. When that cat steps on the field, I don't care where the ball is. There's no chance that I think this is for sure points. Not on an extra point, not on a field goal.
Yep.
If he's taking the snap from the 1-inch line, be honest, dude. I'm saying deadly honest.
Dude, Steph and I were sitting on the couch, and he lined up for that first extra point. And Steph and I looked at each other and went, oh, boy.
I know. There's no confidence in the easiest position to play on the game.
Yeah, he made all 3 of them.
He did,
so,
but that's not the point. The point is that he's so lacking of discernible NFL caliber talent that he's not. It's not an automatic. It's not Matt Bryant out there, for God's sakes. It's not Phil Dawson.
Yeah.
Phil Dawson came out on the field. You really didn't even, dude. When Phil Dawson kicked field goals, you didn't even look at what yards you were on.
Yeah,
you were just like, all right, it's 7-3. And a lot of times, be honest, when you were watching the games at home, when Dawson came onto the field, you go ahead and go and get your beer because you knew that he was going to make.
Knew this. Yeah, the Browns were going to put points on the board. Exactly.
You knew it wasn't going to be blocked and run back for a touchdown. You knew it wasn't going to be, 60 miles west or left or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be. It was not going to be a disaster. Joseph. Yeah, he made all his kicks, and you know what? I didn't feel comfortable about a single one of them. Maybe that's good for the NFL to have somebody that makes you sit on the edge of your seat to watch him kick a 19-yard field goal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's funny that the guy's been he's been really good like the last couple weeks, and yet we're still crapping our pants.
Yeah,
every time he sets up to make a kick.
Because he doesn't exude whatever it is.
Yeah,
and I don't know how to explain it other than he's shaky. I mean, that's it. He's shaky.
Yeah.
And that goes on to the coaches, that the coaches are not, Hugh Jackson said everything that needed to be said about Greg Joseph, which leads me to have no confidence. I don't care other than if it goes through the uprights, which means he doesn't care. He doesn't pay attention to that aspect of the game.
Well, I can't fault Hugh Jackson for the kicker because that's a front office thing. They sign the players. I mean, they're the ones that, like I mean, you just said that John Dorsey you feel that he's the one that traded Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
Well, he's also the one that, signs the kicker and all that stuff. And, so I mean, I can't blame Hugh for that, but the rest of it, I mean, to your point, saying that we've had how many games decided by 3 points or less, and they're not getting over the hump. I mean, that's what finally put me over the edge. Is it's like this keeps happening. It's like at some point. I mean, even last year we're 0-16, but how many games we had? What was it like? I think 10 of them were one possession games or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, at some point, enough is enough. Like you're not getting the job done. I mean, it's a bottom line business, and when you're that close to winning and not doing it. Like, the players have to execute. I get that. But I'm sorry. I'm on board now. If Hugh goes, that's fine. I mean, if they want to keep him for continuity, even me, I'll be like, really? I mean,
there's continuity. Continuity works when you see significant growth. But I mean, dude, and this is the question that answers it or doesn't answer it. Do you see, with what you see on the field last week and the week before, and even with the Ravens win, so I'll give you a win and 2 losses last 3
Well,
weeks.
the Ravens was 2 weeks ago.
Or whatever, 2 weeks ago. And then the Chargers, for the last, I'm just saying with the last 3 games, use that as your sample model, okay?
I'm going to do the last 2.
Okay, even better.
Because I know exactly where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason I was on board with keeping Hugh was because through the Baltimore game, yes, I saw progress.
Okay.
The Charger game, I feel like the team quit for the first time under Hugh Jackson. I feel like they quit in the second half. It was a goddamn embarrassment. And this past week was not a progression either.
Well, but look forward in your magical crystal ball here. Do you see a playoff team led by Hugh Jackson? With what you see on the field and the progression, the types of progression that they're making.
No, because he's been given a roster now that should be able to win some games, and he's not getting them over the hump.
Yeah, dude.
And he's just doomed because I initially thought that he had to win. I mean, 6 would have been okay.
Yeah.
But I thought he would have had to gone at least 8-8. And the only way to do that now is in these last 9 games is to go, 6-3.
Yeah.
And there's no way, because if you look at the schedule now, I mean, the Browns could play really well and still win maybe 2 more games because, I mean, you're looking at Pittsburgh this week, which is always a bitch. You got Kansas City, which, their defense is crappy. But I mean,
it ain't that crappy. They're 6-1.
Well, that's their offense. That's what I'm saying. Their defense is crappy, but good luck keeping their offense from dropping 45, 50 points on you.
Right.
Falcons, crappy defense, but they got an offense. I mean, we went. I was talking to my buddy last night, and if you look at the rest of the schedule, you have the 4 division games. You got 2 against Cincinnati. You've got Pittsburgh this week, and you got another one against Baltimore. So there's 4. The other 5 games, you've got Kansas City. That's a loss.
Yeah.
You got the Broncos, which, I mean, that's really the only potentially, obviously winnable game left.
Right.
Then you've got Carolina, who is, battling for a playoff spot. They're a great team, I think. And then you have, who are the other ones? The Falcons, again, crappy defense, but a really solid offense.
Yeah.
And then who's the last one? It's another AFC. Oh, the Texans, and they're starting to put it together. They've won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, so where it's not like you have a couple cupcake games. You don't have the 49ers, the Giants, the Falcons, or excuse me, not the Falcons, the Cardinals. You don't have these suck teams in your future. So, I mean, and Hugh Jackson has to win 6 of those 9 games.
Yeah, it's
now if he does it, you got to keep the guy.
Well, if he does it, but come on, dude,
it's not going to happen.
Just the thought of Desmond Harrison versus J.J. Watt with the playoffs on the line for Houston.
Man.
That's a game that I'm hoping Tyrod comes back into play. They just sit Baker, just sit Baker, put Tyrod back in there to take those lumps because J.J. Watt is going to come and have 8 sacks against Harrison.
You act like the last time J.J. Watt played against us, he had 3 sacks and an interception and a fumble. Oh wait, that's right, he did.
Yeah, he did. In fact, he's so good his brother beat our ass too.
Oh my God, yeah. So but I mean, I'm completely on board. I mean, I don't, Hugh, they're not progressing the way they should.
Yeah.
And there's no room on the schedule for him to get the wins that he's going to need in order to survive.
Yeah, I mean, there's no for sure winnable games in the NFL. There's just not. I mean, it really is week to week. Last week was as close to a lock as you're probably going to have, and they just shit the bed. They just play the only other game on the entire schedule that I think is a game that the Browns should absolutely win is the Falcons. Because the Falcons are bad.
Not the Broncos, huh?
Nah, the Broncos are starting to play better too.
But they don't have their offense. I mean, maybe defense. I mean, that's strong, but their offense can't really put up points.
But they're they came in with a new offense and a new quarterback, and it takes a little time, and they're still trying to figure out who's going to catch the ball for them as well. So
they did have a 45-point game last week, I think.
Yeah, and that's it. They're starting to find their rhythm. The Falcons, the Falcons have a lousy defense, and didn't I see that Freeman is out too? Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, he's on IR, the bastard.
I take it he's a fantasy player, huh?
I have him on both my teams. Thankfully though, my fantasy teams are doing well. I was 0-4 in my main league, and I've now won 3 in a row, and I've made some really smart pickups because I'm always waiver wire guy,
right?
And I try and follow trends, and I got like Tyler Boyd from Cincinnati at receiver, and he's been putting up points, and it's funny because I got Sony Michel, who had 2 awesome games, and now of course he gets injured, but I picked up Nick Chubb in both of my leagues. So hopefully, he does what he did because he was good for some points. But when you have Todd Gurley, in both your leagues, that doesn't hurt you either.
Yeah, that's 30 point. That's 30 points a game right from the start.
Yeah. And my second league with Steph's family, I'm in first place. So that one's pretty good. When my quarterbacks, I have murderers row. Basically, I can choose between Drew Brees, Cam Newton, and Baker Mayfield. So even if 2 guys go down, Baker still he still scores points in fantasy reasonably. So. It's not too bad, but
no.
Anyway,
not too bad at all.
Anyway,
but all right. So let's move to this week. I can't even talk about Hugh Jackson anymore. It just makes my fucking stomach hurt.
Right.
So what are we thinking? 38-3 blowout by the Browns over the Steelers. Is that what we're thinking?
I'm just picking the Browns because I want it to happen so bad, and I don't care if it's realistic or not. I hate the Steelers. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. God. And speaking of hatred, the World Series starts tonight, and I know it's never going to happen, and it's pissing me off that the Red Sox are gonna win another championship because I hate them almost as much as I hate the Steelers. But
is there still baseball?
Yeah.
Once the Indians were done, so was I. I was like, no. I don't like the Red Sox. I don't like the Dodgers. I don't like the Astros, so I don't want to watch.
As soon as I got ousted, I was like, go Brewers, and then they lost. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, no, it's like, come on. Anybody that we like?
These last 2 weeks have sucked for sports. The Browns got rolled by the Chargers, and then they lost on Sunday. The Indians got ousted. The Brewers then got ousted, Ohio State got crushed.
Yeah.
I'm like,
wait a minute.
Throw me a bone.
Wait a minute. You forgot one. The new look Cavs, 0-3.
Well, that's to be expected.
They've lost 3 games by, I think the total now is like 67 points.
It's funny though, because I read an article that actually what they're doing might not be that dumb because it almost looks like they're tanking.
Yeah.
But they actually have some good players on the roster, and they're making some contract moves that are in 2 or 3 years they're going to have like a ton of cap space.
Yeah.
So it's actually not bad because you could get those lottery picks and then try and have a whole bunch of room to sign free agents and stuff. So who knows? I mean,
dude, they're the best 3-quarter basketball team in the league. For 3 quarters, they look great, and then they just die.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We have the same record as the Lakers, so
all right, whatever. That guy's officially off my radar now. He doesn't even exist.
I just look at that and I'm like, I wonder if he contemplated the fact that you're going to the Western Conference where that's actually a really stacked conference, and so it's not going to be quite as easy, dude. Maybe that wasn't your best idea.
That guy no longer exists in my brain.
Yep. I just want to see what happens next year when they can sign free agents, but that's a whole other topic. So
that'll be for our other podcast, the basketball bouncing podcast.
Right. Whammer's Corner. We'll go back to the mid '90s mascot with the shades, the bear with the shades,
or just calves or cadavers. You choose.
Yeah, I like that one. The Cavs or cadavers. There it is. But yeah, no, I'm just making a homer pick. I'm not even going to give a score. Just God, if you're listening, you've crapped on us for these last 2 weeks. I pray that it's because you're setting us up for a glorious, glorious victory in Pittsburgh. I don't care how it happens. If it's quirky, I don't care. If the entire Pittsburgh Steelers team and all their asshole fans just spontaneously combust in the weirdest scientific anomaly in the history of human creation, I don't care. Just let my Browns win against the Steelers. I hate them so damn much, and it'll keep us undefeated in the division. So I'm praying for a Browns win.
I'm gonna go a slightly different direction, and I'm gonna go for the second time this year, 21-21 tie.
Dude, how crazy would that be?
Imagine? That would make me happier than a Browns loss, and I'll tell you why. Because knowing, as you know, I do have a business in Pittsburgh, so I speak to a lot of Pittsburgh people who have been very quiet to me this year, not rubbing my nose into the whole Cleveland thing.
That's beautiful.
So if they were to tie, and I can tell you, they were furious in Pittsburgh that they tied. They feel like that is not only a loss, but an unforgivable loss. So to have it happen again would be the greatest gift ever. I don't even care about a win, to have them tie and basically have that just ruin their season would make me so happy. So that's my pick, 21-21 tie. The first ever time that two teams tie each other twice in the history of the NFL.
And with the same score. You could probably bet that would never, ever happen again.
And I'm going to call it on a missed field goal by Greg Joseph as time expires in overtime. From 19 yards.
There's a beacon of positivity over there, buddy.
From 19 yards. 19 yards wide left by about 38 feet.
They eschew the quarterback keeper up the middle that they tried against Tampa, and they go for the 19-yard chip shot field goal, and it just goes 10 yards to the left, and everyone's going. You see Baker Mayfield with that look on his face again that he had at the end of the Buccaneers game, like, what the hell?
He literally,
really?
He literally kicks it, and it bounces off the left tackle's helmet.
How about he just whiffs?
Yeah, that would be good too. Just whiffs.
Just totally whiffs.
Garo Yepremian style.
Right. He picks it up and throws it,
drops it,
slips off his hand.
Yep. just awful. Or knowing the Browns' luck, it would be the Pittsburgh guy that would whiff, and we would pick it up and run it back to about the 6-inch line, and whoever was running it back would just break their knee and fall. And it'd be somebody good like Desmond Ward or something. He'd get all the way to the 1-inch line and not be able to crawl over for the score, and we'd lose by an inch. and we'd lose Ward for the year.
It's just an ending where, for 30 seconds you could play yakety sax over it.
Mm-hmm.
But only in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, dude, what else is left this year?
Really?
Is there anything goofy that's left this year?
Well, there is. I just won't verbalize any of them because, as we know in Cleveland, as soon as you verbalize it, it happens.
Well, I mean, dude, what else is left? We've had 4 overtime games.
We played an entire extra game almost.
Yeah, of football that we basically lost. You know, so that's another loss as far as I'm concerned. 4 quarters of not winning, and on top of that, what do we have? We had a 2-point half. Last week we had a 2-point half. What is that?
Dude, OIC, only in Cleveland. That's why we have that phrase.
I know. Just terrible. But
all right, man. So let's get out of here. Like you're calling a tie.
Yep.
I'm just praying for a Browns win because to get that in Pittsburgh, especially with them now going, see, we're better than we were then, and they're worse. Like we're gonna beat them. Just break their hearts, please.
That's all I hope for as well.
My God, please. So, anyways, thanks for checking out another episode of the Dog Pound Podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And, until next time, go Browns. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Ooh, ooh.
Thanks for listening to the Dog Pound Podcast. Be part of the next edition by sending your thoughts to Woof, that's WOOF, at dogpoundpodcast.com or by calling us at 216-503-6404. See you next time, and go Browns!
Get